Good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Welcome from GEG Colorado. I am Tiffany, and this is Staying Student-Centered with Flipped Learning. So hope everybody's feeling good on this Saturday morning, or if you're watching a different time, you're feeling good. If you have a chance, go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us where you're from. Give us your Twitter handle so we can follow each other, and we'll be ready to start. So let's dig in. Let's go. So today we're going to talk about flipping your classroom, which is a hot topic right now because we've got, hybrid learning, we've got online, learning, we've got some folks are fully in person, but there's the social distancing pieces and all of that. So we've got a lot of different situations going on. And so here's kind of how this is going to work. We're going to talk about what is flipped learning. We're going to talk about why you would want to do it, how you would do it. I'm going to give you a few different tools that you can use that are going to really help support you in that adventure. And then we'll kind of wrap up and we'll talk about PD credit and all of that good stuff. So I'm excited. I'm ready for this. So to start off, I'm Tiffany LoSasso. I am the new GEG Colorado leader. So obviously I am in Colorado. I am currently a middle school digital teacher librarian, which means I handle all of the tech in my school. I am the librarian in my school, and I teach classes. So all of the things, and it is quite a lot. And in a little bit, I'll talk about what my school looks like this year in the world of COVID. So before that, I was a digital instruction coach. And so I supported multiple schools and supported teachers in, newly one-to-one programs where you got to help the teachers figure out, what do we do now? We've got all these devices. We've got kids who are ready to rock and roll, but how do I do it? How do I accomplish it? So I've done that for the last couple of years. And then I spent about 8 years as an English language arts teacher in a variety of schools and levels. So I am a Google certified trainer. I am a Pear Deck Colorado regional coach. This is my beautiful family. I do have a nearly 6-month-old. I have a quarantine baby. And then I'm a big Harry Potter nerd. So that's my big claim to fame and everything. I've got my Ravenclaw shirt on. I don't think you guys can see, but and then, got to have my Bitmoji because that's all the rage right now. So there is that. I do have a lovely assistant in the back, Kelly, who's going to be helping out. And so she's dropped in the link for the slides. So you can hop in there, bit.ly/flipped GEGCO, and the F and the GEGCO are all capitalized. Don't forget that part. So yeah, you can find me on Twitter at RedheadEdTech, and you can also shoot me an email if you've got questions or, if you want to shout me out for something or whatever the case is. So that's a little bit about me. Now a little bit about GEG. So if you aren't already a member of GEG Colorado, we would love to have you. So we've got all of our wonderful, wonderful leaders. Kelly, who is my background folk, she is also my co-leader, and we're from all over the state of Colorado. And so we're ready. We're ready to help any educators in Colorado and anywhere else. You can find us. We have a Facebook group that's probably the most active outlet we have. We've got Twitter. We have our website that you can go and check out and see all of our past events. And then we do have our YouTube channel, which you are at right now. So once again, if you are just joining, go ahead, say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're from. Give us your Twitter handle, and we'll say hi and everything. So please join GEG Colorado. We're here just to, support teachers and educators across Colorado and across the world. If you're not from Colorado, feel free to join. We're happy to have you. And then every Sunday we do have something called the Sunday Share, and we, sometimes it's something like a cool ed tech tip you have, and sometimes it's just share your Bitmoji or something along those lines. So check it out. All right, so at this point, we're going to jump in and we're going to start talking about flipped classrooms. So here is the what. What is a flipped classroom? And so if you go to these slides, you'll notice I do try to kind of point out when something is clickable, because I have my sources in there. And so this image here, this is a clickable image, and it'll take you to this article with a video and everything about it. And then I do have this cute little video on the side, and it's got penguins, and that's really why I picked it, because it talks about what a flipped classroom is. But in the world of non-COVID stuff, this concept of flipped classrooms came around. And what it was, instead of having kids doing all of this learning in class all by themselves, like teacher talking, that sort of thing, and then they would go home by themselves and do all of the practice, this really hard struggle by themselves. And so the concept was, we're going to turn that around. And so instead, before class, the homework would be, you watch this lecture, you read this article, you look at the textbook, you do this, right? Then that way, during class, the teacher is able to do support while the students are practicing and applying their understanding. And so the teachers are doing lots of conferencing and one-on-one, and students are working together and all of that. So it is far more personalized. It is far more, differentiated, lots more check-ins, and students have the support as they practice the skills. All right, and then after class, so before the next class, then students, just kind of do some extra supports, and they, learn a little bit more, as well as prepare for the next lesson. So that's what a flipped classroom is. All right, shout out to Denise, yay, another DTL, welcome. So then there is, there's a whole bunch more to this why. And so I'm kind of adjusting some of these whys to fit this world of COVID, because things are going to, be a little bit different in this view. So this is another clickable image, that talks about the different pieces of flipped learning. And so we'll come back to this, but you're also welcome to click it and, check it out and explore some of these tools. But I want to get into the why, right? Because this session is all about being student-centered, and that's what's important. And so here's the why. Flipping is so great for our kids because it allows them to learn at their own pace. We know that our kids aren't necessarily all going to be learning and understanding things at the exact same time, right? And so I can't say, you have 12 minutes to understand this concept because Johnny understood it in the first 2 minutes I was talking, while Tiffany is going to take 34 minutes to understand it, right? And so they get to learn at their own pace. They have these videos that they can watch, and they can pause, and they can try these things, right? Flipped learning, it's customized. It's geared towards the kid, right? It's engaging because they know, like, my teacher is paying attention to what I'm doing, and they're going to, be supporting me and checking in with me. And so they are a little bit more bought in, right? Recorded lectures help them later. So if they've got to prep for an exam or something, or they're working on a big portfolio project, they have all of their resources. They don't have to just rely on their memory or, their half notes that they took. And typically they're more satisfied, they perform better, they feel like they've got this, and they feel like, this is what school should be, kind of thing. Okay, so that's the big why. That's why, the overall reason for flipped learning. I do have my source down there if you want to check out those kinds of pieces. So now I'm going to talk about personally why from my school. So I'm in GEGCO in Colorado, and what we have done is we have a hybrid and remote model going on. So all at once, the teachers, we are supporting hybrid learners and online learners. So we'll talk about my normal week. On Mondays, I have my hybrid group A in person, in my classroom, working with me. Meanwhile, hybrid group B is online, and obviously my remote learners are all remote. Then on Tuesday, I've got my hybrid group B in person in front of me. Hybrid group A is online, remote is online. So I've got these 3 different groups, and it's really hard to just do the exact same thing for all of them. I actually was playing with, Mondays we would have this community meeting, and even my online folks would sign in and we would chat. And it turned into a logistical nightmare. And we ended up I'm canning it because it's just not working out for everybody. And so we're looking at 3 different groups. So I'm kind of looking at, I've got 3 different preps for one class, right? Because I've got to think about how am I supporting all of these learners and making sure they've all got it. And then even though I have these don't you just need to do like an online support and a hybrid support? But no, because they're in person in different days. So if I have a hands-on in-person activity, I've got to make sure my folks who are there in person on Monday have the necessary background, whereas my folks on Tuesday, it's this whole chaotic mess. We are getting by as best as we can. But this is the why for my school. So my school, we have really been focusing on supporting everybody and doing a lot of this flipped learning, asynchronous learning work. So then when students are in person, it is all conferencing, all one-on-one support and check-ins and all of that. So another little thing I wanted to pop in is if this itself, what I'm presenting to you right now, was a flipped lesson, and I'm just like, here's your lesson, here it is. At this point, I would have them pop into like a Google Classroom or something like that and do a discussion, Padlet, something along those lines to have my students talk about this topic. And I just thought I should pop in kind of some of those pieces about if this was a flipped lesson, how would that work? Because, practice what you preach kind of thing. So that's the why. So now we're going to get into the how. How do I go about this, right? And the hard thing is you've got to focus your learning a lot. And we're already doing that in the world of COVID because we can't have the same number of expectations because we don't have the kids in front of us and we don't know what their situations are at home and all of that. So we're already focusing. And with flipped, you kind of got to focus it even more. What is absolutely essential for your kids in this curriculum? What do you need to make sure X, Y, and Z, they've got these before, they can move on sort of thing. You got to think about how you can adjust, what you can remove, and it's hard because you might end up having to remove some things that you absolutely love doing, but maybe they're not going to work in this hybrid remote world or this socially distanced world, or maybe they're just kind of outdated or something like that, right? Because you really got to focus that learning. Then you've also got to think about what are my kids going to need to do this on their own? Because I'm not going to be there, especially my fully remote kids. I'm not there to help them. And so what am I going to do to make sure they know how this piece goes? They know where to put this thing, right? So I've really got to focus that. And so here are some pieces to a flipped learning environment that is successful, right? You've got to make sure that you're having plenty of discussions. Use video as much as you possibly can. Video of yourself, video of your students, right? Get that interaction. Right now, we're all kind of craving that. But also, gives just that personal touch. Instead of me finding a YouTube video for every single topic, if I take some time and I record my lecture how I would say it, that's going to be a lot better, right? We need to make sure we have purpose. We've got lots of examples. Always give them examples. Make sure there is a clear structure, which we're going to talk about a lot. Give them chances to collaborate. I know it's kind of complicated, but this past week, I even had a project where my students could collaborate with anyone in any of the groups. So they could collaborate with someone sitting next to them in their hybrid group, or someone who's in the other hybrid group, or someone who's online, that sort of thing. And so make sure you're still making room for that. But the biggest one is clear directions. Because you're not next to them and you can't remind them and you can't do these other pieces, you have to make sure all of your directions are foolproof. And when I say that, I don't necessarily mean do like a big paragraph of directions, because they're not going to read that, right? They're going to skim. Bullet points, bright colors, all of that, make it pop. So that way those skimmers that we know we have are still going to figure out what they're supposed to do before emailing you at 30 minutes before the assignment is due going, I don't know what I'm supposed to do right now, right? So next up, I'm going to talk to you guys about some specific examples that you can do. So these are from teachers that either I have worked with or I know, who these are their ways that they have set this kind of structure up. Many of them are clickable, so you can go to a copy of it, and then if you want, you can make your own copy and everything. So this first one, this teacher called it Follow the Rainbow, and it was color-coded, and that's why it was called that. And this one was set up like a calendar. And so how they did it is they mapped out for this unit, we have this, this many weeks to accomplish these tasks. Now, they color-coded it in a way that, most students just followed the colors, right? And that was fine. That worked out great. And so then, you see there's like this orange section. And so the students would do the orange things. And if they scrolled down, there would be extra resources for the orange section. Positive to that, and especially thinking socially distanced, as you are like walking around, if your school has something along the lines of land school or securely or, some kind of monitoring, you can really quickly see what they're working on because you have everything color coded. And you're like, ooh, you're only on the yellow step, kid. Like, what's going on here? And so this one was really great. This was kind of a more linear, but there was this aspect of like choose your own adventure kind of thing. Like, I'm not really feeling that yellow today, so I'm going to hop over to the blue section and see what I can accomplish. All right, this specific one, keep in mind with a lot of these, I did take out hyperlinks to, their class-specific pieces and that kind of thing. So there's missing links and things like that just for their own security. But this one was made for a science class, just so you're aware as you're looking through it. Okay, so that's one way that you can set up the structure. Because remember, I mentioned how important it is to have that structure with those clear directions, right? And then I also think about my struggling learners who do need like colors and making it clear, like this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm in the right spot. And that leads me to another example I have. And this is another clickable one. So you can go to a copy of this document. And this is from a CLD or an ELL teacher. And what he did is it's a choice board. Now, he has his students organized by their English level, right? And so the students knew, I am a yellow kid, I am a green kid, I am a blue kid. Those were his 3 levels. And so if you, even looking at this quick screenshot, you'll see the yellow kids would follow the yellow pieces. And so for each chunk, this first one being a YouTube video, he would, the students would know I'm yellow, so I do for this YouTube part, I do this yellow, right? Green knew they did the green, and the blue folks, they had to do the green, and if there was an enrichment activity in the blue section, they had to do that as well. Now, again, most kids did this in a pretty linear fashion, where they would do part 1 and move on, part 2 and move on. But they don't have to. They 100% can jump around. If you opened this document and you looked, there are a couple spots that are bright red boxes, and it says, before you move past this area, you have to check in with me. And he would check in and do these conferences and just make sure the kids were on track with whatever they were doing. So that's another one. And like I said, that one was made for ESL or CLD students. And it was, it's a hyperdoc, right? It's pretty simple. So those are a couple of examples that the teacher set them up as choose your own adventure. You can jump around, you feel like just watching a video today, or you feel like doing the writing assignment today. Kids have that option and they can really personalize it. Now here's a couple of examples that are a little bit more linear by nature as well, like the teacher wanted them to go through in this order. This is an example from a PD course that my district ran through Google Classroom. And so in it, they have the topic set up as called day 2, right? And they, below that, have all of the things that we needed to do. You need to read this material. You need to check this piece out. Here is your assignment or your question or your discussion, right? And so that's one way that you can do that in Google Classroom. Notice it's not clickable because I can't have you joining this district PD course or anything like that. But just so you get an idea for, well, how would that look in Google Classroom or in my LMS? Because you could do this exact same thing in many of the LMSs that are out there. Another teacher I've worked with who does things pretty linear, I made a copy of this. And so she makes a daily calendar for her students. It's a hyperdoc calendar. And in it are just like very clear, okay, you follow the Monday column. And here, if they have a class meeting, you go to this meeting and you do these things, right? And then this is your assignment. And she, highlights things to make it really clear and noticeable for them. And she has links to everything. So she also, this is my school, we use Google Classroom. And so she has links to the exact assignments. I obviously pulled all of those links, but it's really, really clear for kids to know, here's what I'm doing on Monday. Here's what I should be doing on Tuesday. So whether they miss school or whatever, they're good to go. All right, and then just for your information, that's from an English class. I have 2 more examples to show you. This is from a social studies class. And what this person did is also in Google Classroom, and it's a little bit different. So they have it set up where they have all of the directions in there. Then they have their office hours on there. And because of the number of students they have designated times depending on your last name. So it's like, hey, you can come on this time, you can come on this time. Then in there, they also have down below, you can see their resources. So they've got, a video example of him. They have the slides for reference, and then they have the assignment for the kids themselves, right? And so this is a really clear, and he usually does this like this is a couple of days or a week. They've got all of it in one place. So they know this is what I got to do. Okay. And then the last example is actually this slide deck. This is made from Slidesmania because slidesmania.com is amazing. And I get just about all of my templates from them. If you don't know about them, they are incredible. Check them out. And this slide deck is made to be set up that way. Like I could just give this to my students and they can click through, go through the pieces. I have hyperlinks, I have videos, right? Like this could be how you set up your hybrid, remote, whatever, flipped classroom. Okay. So I'm going to pause for a second because I want you to conceptualize and think about, well, what's going to work best for your students, right? We're all in a different structure. We're all in a different setting. We could have elementary, we could have middle, we could have high school, we could have college, who knows, right? So I'm going to take just about 30 seconds. I'm going to be quiet and I want you to just kind of process and think in your own head what would work best. Feel free to share it in the chat if you're interested, but I'm going to go quiet for a little bit. Awesome. So if anybody is interested, share it in the chat, shout it out on Twitter, like what was going to work best for you and your students in this flipped environment. So now let's get into some of the tools, right? Because this is all great. I love thinking about this. I'm a green person in organization. I like my structure stuff. But how am I going to do that, right? And so here is what I'm doing. And so when I think about prepping and planning, right, my biggest piece of advice, guys, is start slow. Don't throw 300, 400, like don't even throw 5 new tools at your students, right? They are overwhelmed. You are overwhelmed. Nobody needs that. If this whole concept is new, start with one single lesson, just one. That's all you need, right? You can say, I'm going to do this for my next week. I'm going to do it for my unit, whatever. But if you're overwhelmed, start with one. I'm going to try this one time. Just like Denise here. Yes, I love it, right? It can get really long and hard. And so maybe you're just like, I'm just for my math lesson tomorrow. Here's what we're going to try. So my other thing is if you have the opportunity, collaborate. You know, if you've got someone in your school who teaches the same thing you do, awesome. If you don't, reach out to someone in another school, in another state, in another district, whatever, right? So then there's a couple of great tools that we use in my district. We use Screencastify. So there is a free version of Screencastify that allows you to film up to 5-minute videos. I've never used Loom, but I've heard really good things about it. And my district has WeVideo. And so if you have WeVideo, that's another great screencasting and webcam tool that you can be using. If you're new to those, there's a couple of links there for you so you can check out how do I use those and how does it work and everything. Both of them connect to your Google Drive, so then you have all of those videos. All right, then my other big, as a techie person, please don't forget, make sure your kids know how to access the tools you're going to introduce and how to use them, right? Like if they don't know that, then you are putting them at a disadvantage and they're going to struggle a lot, right? So make sure, show them how to do it, make a quick video, direct them to a how-to, whatever the case is. Okay, so make sure to think about these things ahead of time. All right, so the first tool that I love for my flipped classroom is Cami. Cami is one of those freemium services. However, I've been using it for years, and sorry, Cami, I've never paid for the full version, and I love it still. So Cami is a tool where students can annotate and adjust in things PDFs. So they will get this PDF you send them, they can highlight text, they can write on it, they can type on it, all of this, and then they send you their adjusted PDF back. So it is a Google Chrome extension. There's the link to get that. And all, how it works in the free version. So on my screen, you'll see there's that black bar, and let me get my cursor there for you guys. So this black bar is what they do. So they open the PDF, it's over here, and then over here they've got all the tools. Now, when you have the free version, you have this tool, which is your highlighter. You have this tool, which is your comment, add a little note. And you have this tool, which is a text box. Okay, you don't really have the other tools. I know there's like one other you have or something, but those are the 3 I use the most. Math teachers, you might notice that for the free version, you do not get this lovely math tool. However, my math teachers are who I usually get to use Cami the most. Math and language arts love Cami. So Cami is like, my students write on it. So I would have like a math teacher who gives students a PDF worksheet of math problems, and then they just use the writing tool and they do their math problems and send it through, right?
Hey, Tiffany.
Hey.
Denise wants to know, how does Cami compare to Read Write for Google?
Love it. And Denise is asking because our school district loves Read and Write. So I haven't used Read and Write to the extent that I have used Cami. So I don't have a great answer around that, but I found that at least for secondary learners, Cami was a little bit easier for my kids to kind of understand and work with, because with Read and Write, they struggled with like, where does it go, miss? How does it work? And because I'm not familiar with it, I was like, I'm not sure. So I don't know if there's somebody out in the Twitter world who knows, and I'm sorry, Denise, I don't have the great answer for you, but it does integrate with Google Classroom and Schoology if you use Schoology, and I'm sure it integrates with other LMSs, but it is really easy to use, and all they do is it's connected to, you can kind of see, it's connected to your Google Drive because you sign in with that account, and then if you do the paid version, there's really easy like turn-in buttons. But if you do the free version, you save the PDF to your Google Drive, and then you upload that into their assignment or anything like that. All right, so Cami is great. If you're new to Cami, I have a couple of great resources here. I go through a quick how-to video. This is a how-to for students, and then this is just their big general handbook of all the things that they have going on. All right, so Cami, love Cami. Next up, I couldn't have something without a little bit of Pear Deck info, because I love Pear Deck. And Pear Deck, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is interactive Google Slides. So you start by making your Google slide deck, and you make it interactive through an add-on. All right, so my district has paid for all of our teachers to have a premium version. The free version is okay. Now, I'm normally the kind of person who only promotes free things because I was a teacher for many years, and we shouldn't be spending all of our earnings on tools for our classroom, right? So this is one of the few ones that I'm like, yes, the paid version is way better, and you really should get the paid version, and I'm sorry. But I'm all about like, hey, do a donors choose, get like some donations in there, see if your school will pay for it, see if there's grants available. I worked at one school that had this awesome PTA, and if I had said, hey, I need this for Pear Deck, they'd be like, cool, here you go. But I know not everybody has those opportunities. So anyways, so it's through Google Slides, and once you add it, if you add it in correctly, then in Google Slides, you actually get this awesome little Pear Deck icon. And once I'm in my slide deck, all I do is I click Pear Deck and it pops up. And then I have all of these options. I can add questions that are multiple choice. I can add short answer questions. I can add drawings and draggables and this and that. And they've made it really, really, really easy for students for it to be asynchronous or live. And you can also flip between that. So often if I'm doing a live lesson, I'll do that, and then I'll switch it to student-paced mode, and then my students can finish their practice on the same stuff. So in here, I've made 3 different videos because there's kind of 3 things: setting it up, how it works while it's going, and then what to do after the session. So I made 3 quick little videos about it if you're interested. And then there's also, they are Pear Deck is super responsive and they want to make it better for teachers. They have one of the best how-to handbooks I've ever seen. It was very clear they made it with teachers in mind. Probably some teachers helped make it. It was great. But so check out Pear Deck for flipped classroom. It's awesome because they also have these features like when my students type a response, I can do teacher feedback right away. I can give them feedback connected to their response now. There's audio that I can drop in, all of this great stuff. So Pear Deck is a really, really good one for flipped learning. Okay. Next one I want to tell you about is EdPuzzle. EdPuzzle is kind of blew my mind when I first learned about it. So I always, you'd assign students, hey guys, I want you to go to YouTube and I want you to watch this video and you're going to answer these questions. And then based on their responses, you'd be like, yeah, you didn't watch the video at all, right? And then they would turn in some like lame responses and all that kind of stuff. But EdPuzzle saves you. And so EdPuzzle is you can take any video, it's a YouTube video, Google Drive video, anything, and make it interactive. So this screenshot I have, if you've never seen EdPuzzle, you might be like, what is this? But this is a screenshot. This is a EdPuzzle video. And in it, all of these little teardrop looking things are points where the video stops playing and there's something students have to do. Now you assign this to them. So, and if you use like, hey, Denise, if you use Google Classroom like I do, there is like an assign in Google Classroom. So then they go to Google Classroom, they click it, it connects their accounts. It's wonderful. And so in it, you also can set it up so they can't actually skip ahead the video, because we know sometimes if the kids saw this, they'd be like, well, I'm just going to click here. So then I skip all that chunk of the video, just get to the questions. And so in here, there's a setting that is you have to watch that whole section before you can answer the question. Those sneaky kids, right? And so it connects to Google Classroom. I think it connects to Schoology, if I remember correctly. There was an integration and things like that. And then there's multiple choice questions you can do. There's short answers. You can even have it where it pauses and you can do a little audio clip where you give like a little mini lecture or anything like that. So I do have another video of like how to use it, and then the company's how-tos. Again, freemium. So there's the free version, and then the paid version just gives you more space for like active EdPuzzles. And again, I've never used the paid version, so go with the free version. So Denise, I see your question. Have you used EdPuzzle with the littles? I personally have not, but my colleagues last year, they did that a lot where they were supporting folks with it. And it's actually pretty simple. If you got in and clicked and saw, basically when the kids get in, they're going to see something like this with your video. They press play, and then it will play the video, stop the video, big screen, here's my question, here's my answer options, here's where I type, whatever the case is. And then once they click submit, it continues playing the video. So it is pretty simple. And I think, as long as you don't have a video with 37 stopping points, your littles would be able to handle it pretty darn easily, right? So that is EdPuzzle. It is awesome. And, especially when we can't see our kids. And because I know I was always that person who I'd show a video and I'd have to like in class pause it and be like, okay, guys, let me explain this, or let me talk about this. All right, so EdPuzzle, check it out. Then the last tool I want to share with you guys is Flipgrid. And if you haven't checked out Flipgrid, I'm new to Flipgrid this year, and I've already used it multiple times with my students because it is awesome. And the kids like it too. So Flipgrid is for video discussions. And how it works is the teacher sets up the discussion topic, and then I think it's best if the teacher is the first response as well. And so like as an example, or even their video is just a reminder of like, okay, here's the expectations, yada, yada, yada. But what's great about Flipgrid is, so you can see on this image, this screenshot I took of somebody's Flipgrid, like there's these cool filters they can do, and they can put sunglasses on themselves, and they can really have fun. And the first time they will, so give them that freedom of like, do it up, make yourself look great, all of that. But they record these videos based on your directions. And so the first one I did with my students was we did a personality test. Thanks, Steph Rothstein from GEG Global for that awesome thing. And then they had to talk about, did that match them? They talked about themselves a little bit. And it was kind of a way to introduce ourselves to our classmates. And so you set it up with a time limit, and then they film themselves, and then they can respond to each other with a little video. And especially for our kids who are fully remote, it's great because number one, in the like big class meetings, they're a little shy, and they're kind of usually, I don't know, in middle and high school, usually the kids just like mute, probably turn off their camera, and you don't even know if they're there or not. And so this is a chance for them to talk. And I've noticed the kids who are like super uncomfortable in the big group are all about it, and they love it. Flipgrid has added some awesome features. And so now, so it used to be you could either have your beautiful face or you just have like a whiteboard. So if you're doing, for example, like a math problem, now you can do a split screen. So teachers, when you're filming your lessons, you can film using Flipgrid. You can have your face, and half of the screen is a whiteboard. And so then, on if you use iPad or whatever, or if you have a touch screen, or if you're really talented with a mouse or something, you can like do the examples, make a Flipgrid of you explaining it and going through it, send it to them, and then they can send you a Flipgrid back of the next problem, or, however you organize that. So there's rubrics. You can send it to Google Classroom. You can put the link in there. You can connect, your assignments and all of that stuff. And again, free. We love free stuff. So yeah, check out Flipgrid. Denise, full of great questions. How long can you record? Let's see. If I remember correctly, and this is like just on the fly, I think it was like 10, 15 minutes, but that could be totally wrong. Because like I said, I'm new to it. I had my students do up to a 2-minute video most recently. And the thing is, you set, here's how long it can be, and they can record any amount of time in that window. They'll get stopped at that limit. So I was telling Kelly before this, I had some kids who they turned it in. I saw they had a video. I was like, oh, great. They did the assignment. And then, life got crazy and I didn't get to watch all the videos right away. And they had recorded 2 seconds. One of the videos was just, so keep in mind, they can do that. And you can moderate it. So you can turn on a setting where none of the videos get posted until you have given them the okay, because we always do have to be aware that sometimes they might post something inappropriate, right? So we do have that. If you are going to use that tool, I would highly recommend that you are making sure you're on top of it, because they want to, they want that to see themselves. They want to see their friends. And so if they're like waiting and waiting and waiting for you, they're going to get a little frustrated, right? But Flipgrid is great. It's also one that they can do on their phone. And so if they have a computer that doesn't have a camera, or, they're just more comfortable with their phone, they can get the app and connect it to their school account and do all of those things. There's another big thing I do is a lot of privacy stuff and making sure my students' data isn't going out into the world like crazy. So I should mention that all of these tools have pretty good privacy structures in place for our students, and information isn't being sent all over the place. And with Flipgrid, you can also turn on settings where No one other than people in your class can see these videos. So nobody can stumble upon them and get information about your students or anything like that. Okay, so there's definitely some good restrictions that we can place on these. So those are my 4 go-tos that I use for flipped learning. Like I said, don't jump in like crazy and get all, excited and throw all of these at your kids on Monday. Baby steps, right? Maybe try one. Maybe instead of doing an entire flipped lesson, you're just going to do a short little thing, right? So I do have one last little piece here of like sharing some ideas, like a continuing place for us to share our ideas outside of this PD right now. And I just made a quick little Padlet that you can get on, and just we can kind of collaborate across the internet about, how you're thinking you might have things work for hybrid students, how you might work with your remote students, which structures are you considering? Maybe you have a cool tool you want to share, or you've got an example you want to share. Go to this Padlet, drop it in. I'll be checking in every once in a while and just seeing, all of the great ideas from folks connected to GEG Colorado, right? So I'm kind of pausing just to get my bearings and everything, because that's it. Like that's what it is. First of all, thank you so much for joining. And even if you're joining this much later, thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something and you're walking away with something, because what a waste if not, kind of thing. And even if you're like, I'm not ready to jump into this flipped thing where I have to get everything ready ahead of time and all of that, that's fine. Keep in mind that there's that, the hard struggle of learning for anything. So for example, if you're trying out the flipped learning, it's going to take a long time to get your lessons ready in the beginning, because you're learning, how does this work? And, you're piecing together, my students didn't understand this step, so I got to fix this, right? So give yourself some grace, because we all definitely need that right now, because it is a crazy world. But if you wouldn't mind, fill out, this is part survey, part if you want some PD credit hours on here. You fill out this, you'll get an hour certificate for PD credit hours. And it's one we checked with like CDE, not CDC, CDE requirements. And so you get that and you can use it for research pieces. And it gives me a little feedback and GEG Colorado about what you guys want and need. So that way we can keep offering some awesome things for you, right? Thanks for joining, Denise. Appreciate it. So coming up in 2 weeks, so we're going to try to get in this habit of roughly every 2 weeks-ish having something to offer you guys. And so we got another GEG Colorado leader, Becky Shorey. She is awesome. She does lots and lots and lots of stuff. And she's going to be running a session about Google Classroom, taking it to the next level. So, not the Google Classroom basics, but like, what are some cooler things you can do? What are some more advanced like organization and things like that? She's going to talk about that on Saturday, October 3rd at 10 a.m. All right, so check that out. More info will be coming. We'll put it in our Facebook group, Twitter, all of that. And speaking of, check us out on all of these platforms. Join, interact, collaborate with us. We love to hear from our members. And again, thank you. And we look forward to seeing you again at another session. All right, have a great Saturday, guys.